Well, hello there, and welcome to day 155 of A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. And I wanted to mark the occasion because, as you can see, bookshelf, and that does mean one very specific thing on this occasion. We actually, for the first time in 2021, went to the cinema, to the theatre, to see a film. And I just wanted to mark that as an important date in the calendar, acknowledgement of where we are in the year. It is phenomenal to be back actually seeing films theatrically. I'm absolutely delighted. And we had to mark this, of course. You can't just see any film. So we decided for our first cinema viewing to see the somewhat delayed and much anticipated Welsh drama, or Welsh-British drama, Dream Horse. Now you might wonder, well, what makes that so special? And it will really impact a lot of what I'm going to talk about in this video. Because I suppose the overall theme of the video should be considered bias. You know, the idea that, it's very hard to discuss and analyse films in a vacuum because people, we are people and, conditions do affect our viewing experience. And so the first major bias, of course, being finally being able to see it in the cinema. And watching a film in the cinema, no matter how bad a quality, is still better than not seeing a film in the cinema. As I mentioned, this is a Welsh film, and being someone who has lived in Wales for nearly a decade, I have a personal attachment to Welsh cinema. As I talked about in The Englishman Who Went Up a Hill and Down a Mountain, this is the kind of filmmaking that isn't often appreciated. It's sort of rolled into the broad strokes of British filmmaking, and yet it has a distinct identity and personality to it that I think isn't appreciated. And we are seeing Welsh cinema and filmmaking grow. I can attest to the fact that the industry in Wales is just expanding and expanding, only slightly marred by COVID and the effects it's had on the global entertainment industry. But even still, Wales is becoming, defining its own identity in cinema. And then a closer to home even bias that I will immediately have to lay out there is this film was one of the contributors to the production of this film is my lovely fiancée and producer of this series, Helen, who was the post-production sound effects editor on the film, and so therefore I can't not acknowledge that, and I can't not then, lay out the fact that I'm going to have some bias because, of course, she is excellent, she's a great sound designer, and I want to appreciate all the work that she does. And she's cheering in the background? I'm never sure what the wavy thing means. It's joy, so she's very joyous in the background. Anyway, so, with all those factors in mind, my discussion and analysis of this is going to be obviously very unconventional compared to a lot of the ones I've done previously. Maybe on occasion there has been certain things I've mentioned of biases, but this definitely is a case where the rose-tinted glasses are on, double-lensed. And so, if I am forgiving of aspects of this film, then I will try to make it as objective as possible, but that in mind. So, the film charts, of course, the investment and rearing of the Welsh Grand National winner, Dream Alliance, the Dream Horse of the title, how a group of local Welsh people got together, created a syndicate to then buy a racehorse, and that horse became Dream Alliance. Now, I'm aware that I've just immediately said the ending of the film. However, this is one of those cases where this is a real life story. It actually happened. Yes, you can still go into real life stories without knowing the ending, but I don't think it's the thing to focus on when, it's not the kind of film that should impact your viewing experience so much, because it's about the relationship of this local village, of the people within it, of the fact that they are underdogs who've invested in a horse. They're not, rich people. They're not experienced horse racers or jockeys or horse breeders. They are just a group of people who had a almost amateurish passion for wanting to do this, and it sort of escalates to the point where they developed quite a reputation. And immediately, I suppose, the first sort of mark against it, the thing that it's difficult, is the fact that it does want to do the underdog story. And unfortunately, in doing so, it does mean it falls into certain plot beats that I wish it had steered away from, because it does do there is a certain amount of cultural commentary. It does do something that I mentioned in The Englishman Who Went Up a Hill Down a Mountain, and I've talked about with Welsh cinema, which is the representation of local Welsh people, village Welsh people, your valleys and your North Wales, and, as yokely, backwards, working class Hicks, almost, or the British equivalent of Hicks. And the way that they sort of have to come up against, posh, mostly English people, and they are constantly being underestimated and undervalued. And of course, the metaphor about Dream Alliance as a horse is he sort of exemplifies that experience of being sort of a local Wellian and being constantly sort of put down because you're perceived as thick or generally undereducated or inexperienced. And I do think the commentary's interesting there, but I do also think it falls into then very conventional underdog plot beats. It does things like has them encounter a character who underestimates them, underestimates the horse, and then for some unspoken subtextual reason they see something in the horse, a value in the horse, that means that changes their perception in a small way. And though that's fine, like I say, it falls into convention, because it is that thing where you watch it and say, well, I don't fully understand why, because Dream Alliance, and like I said, knowing the journey that the horse goes on, you know it's going to be a great horse. You know it's going to become this champion Grand National horse, and yet there's nothing in the film and in the look of the horse itself that says this horse is wonderful and there's something innate in it. Frankly, I think the depiction of the narrative suggests that it's more the hard work and the dog-headedness and the fact that you have Jan, our lead, who absolutely pushes, and her will alone is trying to get this horse as far as it can go. But then it also throws moments like that in, where it's like, someone will look at the horse and think, actually, that horse has something to it. And I feel like those two things are at odds. I feel like it's either strength of will or something, an innate, preternatural something about the horse that's, amazing. And I prefer the hard work and effort and sacrifice. There are moments where the camera focuses on Jan as the horse is racing, and it's almost psychic the way that she's willing the horse to race properly and do well and to win, and there are these almost like moments where it veers into like a link between her and the horse, and I think those are the stronger moments in that respect, because it's to say that this is about the village is true, but it's not. It's more about Jan than it is about anyone else. This is Toni Collette, and of course she just masters the screen as she always does. And the character of her, and it's all about being underappreciated. And as I say, with the Welsh thing, it feeds back into that. And it's about, that, again, conventional narrative of someone who's sort of in their middle age, whose children have left the home, who are finding sort of a lack of satisfaction in their everyday life and are feeling underappreciated. But, weirdly, I don't see it often done with women. It's obviously much more with men that I see that narrative. And the way that Toni Collette portrays that, and the way that you sort of see that she is undervalued by her parents, by her husband, by, the fact she works a normal job in a Tesco's. And you see that sense of dissatisfaction slowly build up in her until she wants to invest in the horse, emotionally as well as financially. And then that gives her a spark of life, and that spark has an effect on all the people who then join the syndicate, and it sort of revitalizes this group of people, including her husband. And you like I say, you see that will and drive of hers to want to just be better and to be seen as more than just a wife and a mother and a daughter, and having her own personality. And like I say, there are certain conventional aspects of that, and yet it's portrayed in a way that's really quite authentic and real and well performed, and I genuinely believe in her, and I think she really does carry that. And as I say, there are moments where she connects with Dream Alliance, and it really does feel like her will alone is encouraging this horse to get to where it needs to go. And it does have a good ensemble cast. Unfortunately, it does fall into the habit of these sorts of local area dramas that, focus on a small group of quirky, eccentric ensemble. And unfortunately, it does mean it's under the same category of films like The Full Monty and Brassed Off, and more recent, and even An Englishman Who Went Up a Hill and Down a Mountain, same category. And then, of course, more recently, you have films like The Dig, and it does struggle because obviously it wants to do that same thing where everyone has a distinctive personality trait, and they all sort of bump off against each other, and yet they come together to do something, for themselves, and it represents that area of the British culture. And like I say, that is very similar to films like Brassed Off, Pride, Full Monty, which is good, but at the same time, again, it probably doesn't, the characters aren't that interesting. And again, these are real people. This isn't a fictional thing. Though it's based on a true story and it uses that based in inverted commas strongly, the people who invest in the syndicate are all real people. And yet, because it's trying to give them distinctive traits, it doesn't quite make them interesting enough that I care individually about them. Collectively, maybe, particularly Owen Teale as... is Owen Teale the husband or the... Husband. Sorry, I do actually care about Owen Teale as the husband, as a man who has sort of just given up on life, and his sort of journey to actually, finding some sense of self-pride that he has lost. And then the person who previously was in a syndicate, played by Damien Lewis, who again, his character, those are the three who I think really sort of are the ones I am invested in their arcs. And of course they are, you could say, the leads in that respect, because they do have arcs, whereas some of the other members of the syndicate are there just to be quirky. But I do genuinely care about those characters and where their journey takes them. So yeah, this is a good film. It's fun. It's got that personality to it, and it is a gentle watch. It's not particularly challenging. It's just something you can watch, feel good, and it does do some interesting things. There is one thing I'm frustrated about, and again, it veers towards the third act, so if you do want to jump off here, like I say, it is a feel-good film. It is something worth watching, and again, being at the cinema just enhances everything. There is an aspect of this film, and again, it sort of pays into the real-life story of it, which is to do with the fact that Dream Alliance did get quite severely injured partway through his career, resulting in his tendons being quite severely damaged. Not so much that they couldn't be repaired, but to the point where repair was very doubtful. And they therefore introduced a gene therapy that they used to repair Dream Alliance's tendons, and then Dream Alliance went on to win the Grand National. Now, that therapy, it was a stem cell therapy, had never been done in the history of veterinary... never been done successfully, in the history of veterinary surgery. And though it's a plot beat in the story about, he's got to have this operation and it might not work, and it's sort of their hopes and dreams are sort of based on whether he will get through it or not, it doesn't really emphasise the groundbreaking nature of the surgery and the fact that this was pioneering medicine. And personally, I just think that's a shame, because I do think that is something quite original. It is a story that would have been interesting to actually delve a little bit deeper into. And I'm not saying it should make up half the film, but I do think I wish a little bit more time had been dedicated to, like I say, the groundbreaking nature of that surgery. But again, that's knowing that outside of the context of the film. I do also think there is an issue of time, and it's not necessarily the fault of the film, but it's the fact that you were very aware that years pass for this all to happen, from the moment when Jan decides she wants to start a syndicate all the way up to Dream Alliance winning the Welsh Grand National. And certain plot beats, as I say, fall into that style, but they only really work in a condensed narrative, as in, certain emotional payoffs only work if you feel like the character has a memory of the first event that then leads to the payoff event. And to some degree that is the case, but some of the smaller moments take place over years. I mean, this would have had to have taken place over almost 2/3 of a decade, maybe just short of. And yet, it does, like I say, that if you think about it for a second and think, hold on, this must have been a 2-year difference, it does. Certain moments do lose their the strength of them, because certain characters wouldn't remember a certain interaction or wouldn't remember a certain thing in the way that they have to for the plot to work. But again, that's me being picky. That really is splitting hairs at that point, because I do think if you don't think about it and you just watch the film, it genuinely does work. It genuinely does hold together. But yeah, like I say, I think this is a fun and sweet-natured film, and I'm really glad it came out, because it was supposed to come out last year, and because of COVID, it got pushed and pushed, and could have died a death on VOD, or just outright never been not been released at all. So being released in the cinema, I couldn't be more delighted. And again, I'm so proud of my fiancée Helen, who is one of her... It would have been her first feature, but unfortunately, due to that circumstance, it is no longer her first released feature, but still the first one she worked on. And, that obviously does impact my opinion on it. But yes, please do go to the cinemas. I mean, safely. Do get vaccinated. Do, follow protocol. But the cinemas are back. Let's support the industry and let's get back into the theatres. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you like this video, hit the like button, comment on the video, and share the video, because all those will help me in the algorithm. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that little bell to get notifications of when new videos are released. Check out my back catalogue of over 150 videos. Some of them are not as long as this. And please do follow me on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley, where I'm always tweeting about films and TV shows, and I share the links to these videos once they're on YouTube. Thank you for joining me. Take care.